Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alexio Pico. I'm the Managing Director of the Circle Group, and you are connected to the Connecting EU Insights. This is the first event of the week. We have a full set of events this week. This is the first one. We open up this morning at lunchtime with talking about a very interesting subject, merging, let's say, a very trendy technology, artificial intelligence, with the evolution of custom procedures. That is a key item in trade facilitation in many projects around the world. So let's say the idea is born because we have a very interesting project in the port of Ancona that is going to be explained. That is called Smart Sea. That's the name of the project that is framing this event this morning. And it is about artificial intelligence to manage the traffic of trucks in the port of Ancona with some evolution in the custom procedure. So this morning we have a very high-level bunch of experts to discuss about it. The first two will set a little bit of a frame of digitalization in terms of European initiative. And we have Astrid Schleving from the DG Move, that is one of the responsible person in DG Move for the Digital Transport and Logistics Forum, that is doing an enormous work in order to facilitate trade and transport in terms of digitalization and harmonization. We have Frank Jensens, consultant on trade facilitation. Frank is going to explain you a number of things running around the world. Is really working worldwide. Previously was working in DG Taxud, so dealing with customs. And then we have two speakers about the project itself. Guido Vettorel, that's the head of unit Development, Promotion, Statistics, Communication and EU projects in the port of Ancona, that is going to elaborate on the Smart Sea project itself. And Danilo Bottone, that is the head of Organization, Research and Digital Transition Office in the Italian Customs and Monopoly Agency in Italy. Last but not least, we have Andrea Lagomarsini, CTO and Senior Software Architect and Developer of Hyperion, that is extending a little bit our discussion about the enabling technology, meaning artificial intelligence, but exploring also other possibilities in transport and logistics. So thanks for all of you. Thanks for the participants that are still coming. So I suggest you to take your 10-12 minutes maximum on your presentation, to leave a bit of time at the end for Q&A that we are going to gather, and then presenting to you in a, let's say, a small round of panel at the end of the session. Thanks again, and I leave the floor to Astrid Schleving, DG Move, for the first presentation of today about the Digital Transport Logistic Forum initiatives and how this could be related to what we are doing in this project and elsewhere. Astrid, I see you already there. Thanks for coming, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alexio. Yeah, good morning or good day to everybody. My name is Astrid Schleving. I'm working for DG Move. I'm senior expert there, mainly in the field of logistics and digitalization. And I was invited to present a bit one of our main initiatives, the Digital Transport and Logistics Forum, the so-called DTLF, where in fact we look into how to facilitate data sharing and also paperless information exchange in the supply chains. It has been set up in 2015. There was a first mandate, which was actually expanded in 2018. We have about 110 representatives from industry, also member states, authorities, and academia from all over the place, meaning this is a truly multimodal exercise. Also, we have there all transport modes represented, but also cargo manufacturers, logistics service providers, IT service providers, and so forth. The work is meant to support the Commission in developing and implementing policies partly also with respect to legislative initiatives. The work actually is separated or divided into two areas. One is, and you may have heard about it, is the so-called electronic freight transport information, the paperless part, which ended in the recently adopted regulation on so-called FT, electronic freight transport information. And the second strand of the DTLF is the development and also definition of the technical functional needs for a concept of what we call digital corridor information systems. I will explain later a bit more what actually we mean by that. Just a few words on so I will do the presentation based on these two strands. These two strands are actually represented in two different subgroups in the DTLF. So we meet in subgroup level, we meet at plenary level, and the subgroups themselves are again also divided into teams. As I just mentioned, the work of the DTLF under the first mandate supported and helped developing also the proposal for the regulation on electronic freight transport information, which actually was adopted this summer. And just a few words about it, what it is all about, and I'm sure most of you are very aware of it. It's basically to oblige member states to accept information also in electronic format. And this is information or data which results from EU and national legislation which regulates freight transport in the EU hinterland. And that will finally end in what we call FT common data sets and the FT data subsets, which we are now about to define. In addition to that, it will also look into the provision of those data and how to do that by establishing the requirements for so-called platforms to aggregate or collect data and share data, and also to the certification of these platforms. So the functionalities of the platforms and also what is needed to actually certify those platforms. This slide, and I'm not going into all details, just gives you an idea of the time frame. So as I said, entry into force or the adoption was in July, August this year. The next steps are, in fact, to develop a couple of delegated and implementing acts to and basically define what I already mentioned, like, for example, the data sets, but also the certification requirements and the functionalities of the platforms. The work will last until end of 2023. The actual entry into force will be in 2024, but that means that the technical issues have to be ready. The full-scale application, the actual acceptance of the information will take place or will start from August 25. As I have said already, under the first mandate of the DTLF, this work was supported by the DTLF and it will continue now. In fact, the DTLF will be used as the expert group also to develop the or to provide input to the definition of the implementing and delegated acts. For that, the subgroup is now divided into 4 teams. One, and I will come back to that in a moment. So it's subdivided into 4 teams. It gathers around 80 experts. They meet on regular basis. And the first team, the data team, as I said, will look into the data issues. So we'll provide the for the what we call the European data transport model. I'm not going into all the details here, but I think what is important to understand, this work will not reinvent the wheel and start from scratch. Actually, will build and take into account what is there actually at national, European, also international level. The second team, the functional team, actually works on the technical and functional descriptions of the how to set up the platforms. Not much to say more about that. The third team will look into the technical aspects, but also into the implementation, actual certification. And again, this is the less advanced for the moment. But again, here the work will build also on existing architectures, approaches, concepts, how to get access to data, on how to share the data, the architecture aspects, and so on and so forth. And you see here a few examples, like one record from the air transport sector, but also you see Then we will take into account ongoing initiatives like the International Data Space Association, or at least we will analyze them and take up what we consider as applicable also for the context of FT. The same goes for the projects which we have implemented, like the Venice project. You may have heard about it, but I will come back to that also. The subgroup 2, in fact, was set up, and it's a bit less, or let's say it's a bit more visionary, I would say. Here we really look into how to establish interoperability between existing systems, platforms which do exist or which will emerge, try to identify here the obstacles, but also work then on the technical, legal, and administrative barriers which are actually limiting or hampering the seamless flow and availability and access to information and data. This is actually the concept. In fact, we have broken down the work here into 4 angles, into so-called building blocks. One building block is about plug and play, how to easily access the platforms. The second is about technology independent services. The fourth about also to establish the architecture and the technical and functional aspects of the concept. And the fourth is the governance. The idea here is really a bit that to create some kind of one-stop shop, you have a request, you enter the request into an access point or into into an access point, and then behind the scene you are guided to the source of information which is relevant in relation to your request. So in fact, the idea is a bit like in the internet, so to speak. Again, this is not about reinventing the wheel. We take into account what does exist already in terms of concepts or also implementations. Design principles also require certain technology independence. It's that you really register and connect only once, that it's an open infrastructure, and of course we know that this happens very much in the B2B, or is supposed to happen very much in the B2B environment. So trust plays a big role here. So we also try to create this, what we actually call a network of platforms in a trusted and secure environment. To perform the work, we have created also in subgroup 2 a number of teams. Those teams are oriented towards these 4 building blocks. And on top of it, we have launched maybe now, not even sure, maybe half a year, a bit longer ago, 2 projects in the context of the CEF or TEN-T program. Those projects are called Federated and Phoenix. Whilst Federated looks more into the B2A, so the business to authority exchange of data, where also our work on FT falls more into. Phoenix addresses actually more the B2B exchange, which is more also the focus of the subgroup 2, the corridor information system, or what we call the federated network of platforms. So those 2 projects actually build on the principles of the concept we have developed in DTLF under the first mandate. And now it's a bit of a coordination exercise, a 2-way street, that the CEF projects also get input from the ongoing work of the DTLF, whilst on the other hand, when it comes to rather detailed technical levels, it's also the CEF projects which produce input for consideration by the DTLF. So what the overall results will be, the overall objective for the subgroup 2 and the concept for the federated network of platforms is to develop implementation guidelines for individual organizations, how to plug and play and operate in this federated network of platforms. It's in fact to develop the technical specifications, like for registration, the architecture, the interoperability principles. Also the testing and the validation of the concept in real world conditions. I mean, as I said, we have the DTLF is composed of many industries, so it goes beyond academia and administrations, but in fact the projects now give us the opportunity also to really test in real life use cases, a large variety of use cases, in fact, the ideas and the concepts and the technical and functional aspects of the concept, and then feedback into the further development. Of course, this is in the B2B environment. It's not not necessarily meant to legislate in this respect. So it's also that we need to even increase further the awareness and continue to build consensus also beyond the DTLF. So to have a larger critical mass and take up also of the ideas and the concept. But I think we're on a rather good path here. And I think this is the most important. These are the most important things from this slide. The time perspective for the moment is 2020. And just to give you a flavor of what we are talking here about. So when we talk about federated network of platforms, we really mean to establish the interoperability either between peer-to-peer. So when you do data exchange between even one and the other company, or in the case that you have a situation that between two companies or communities, there is one platform, or there is a variety of platforms, or in fact, you have a situation where there's an individual company, and there's another company which uses a platform. So you have a peer-to-platform environment. And the 4 different building blocks and teams I had described come in at different angles. So the plug and play, for example, is relevant for all 4 different types of settings, whilst others are more relevant for, like the technology independent services are more relevant for the last 3, since the first ones are direct. So it's not really, you have direct exchange, you're not really looking into services here. Very brief, once in a bit more detail what we do. So plug and play is really to develop the concepts and procedures that allow for registration to the platform, and to exchange data, to provide data. So it's really to integrate the back-office systems of companies or of platform services. The second, the technology independent service, is to establish a minimum harmonized level of what kind of service or what the substance of those services should be. For that, we are describing the business scenarios and also the business transactions. So it's a bit the business process mapping, which we are doing here also, to come to a minimum level of harmonization, what can be expected if I look and go for a specific type of service. The third one, the third team, the third building block is really looking into more the architecture, into the technical and functional protocols for exchanging, for establishing the interoperability and actually exchanging the data. And the fourth one, very important one, is looking into the governance structure to establish a trusted, safe, and secure environment. So here we not only look into the organizational, but also the legal and technical and business aspects of this. So meaning that at the end of the day, we also will address the business model. The overall timeline for this, as I said, will go up to 2020, but there we will have some kind of first final report of the work here. But as you can see, I'm not going into detail. We have a number of individual deliverables which come in step by step, and those deliverables, of course, will be also available when they come to the larger public, once agreed by the subgroup as well as by the entire DTLF, so to speak. And I will come back to where you can find this information. And maybe still a word about the larger context of what we are doing here in DG Move. You're probably aware that in February this year there was the publication of the European data strategy, or the European strategy for data, which means or aims to in fact establish or to facilitate or promote data sharing. And one of the key features here is actually the setting up of so-called data spaces. And one of the data spaces highlighted by the or identified already by the European data strategy communication is the data space on mobility and transport, I will actually call it. And the DTLF, with both areas, the FT as well as the federated network of platform concept, will will certainly heavily contribute to the development of the mobility data space and the work we have done here. So just to establish a bit the larger context also where we move in. And of course, I mean, I don't have to say that the overall benefits we of course expect here is to exploit better the data which are there, taking into account, of course, commercial sensitiveness and trust and security to be established. But for the benefit of, for example, better enhanced supply chain visibility. And I think we have now all seen how important digitalization is in these last couple of months. So I think it will also serve not only visibility, but also issues like resilience, for example. And that already brings me to an end. It was really in a nutshell. And if you have more detailed questions, actually for subgroup 1 is another colleague who is dealing with that. It's my colleague Leah Potek. But if you have questions or you want to get in touch with us on that, please send us an email. You have here, you should have, yes, you have the functional mailbox address there. So please don't hesitate to contact us. You will also find information and actually all minutes and presentations from all different meetings on the so-called expert group register. You have the link here. You can easily Google it also. And there is a Digital Transport Logistics Forum website, which we're actually right now updating. And very soon there will be also 2 videos available, which for broader audience, and which will also explain a bit more what we are doing here. And that ends my presentation. Of course, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Astrid. It was very clear, and it is a very good frame in terms of what is happening at European level. That is for sure, in a sense, also framing what is the next part of the presentations we have concerning the Smart Sea project later. So now the floor is going to Frank Janssens. That is a top-level consultant on trade facilitation, previously working in DigiTaxud. So I think you have a lot to say, Frank, in order to let us understand how trade facilitation could be really supported by, let's say, an effective digitalization in terms of customs and other procedures. So, Frank, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm just trying to, to have the screen there. So thank you, Alexio. Good afternoon, everybody. So yes, I would like to speak you or inform you a bit better about the evolutions in customs, and especially the use of customs corridors, and by, I would say, by digital means. And I will try to explain that to yourself. So I will have, first of all, the most, I would say, most important subject here are the customs corridors. But at the end of my presentation, I would also like to use just one slide for the latest evolutions in EU customs and the EU customs action plan, and then another slide on the customs single window, so that people are well informed what are the latest things that are happening in the world of customs. Now, if we start on at, I would say, the current situation, I'm sorry, I think the slide is gone. Yes, it's back. So first of all, I would like to say that there is, for customs and for trade in general, there is a need to speed up things. The movement of goods is often interrupted in harbors, in airports, especially at land borders, and there are multiple stops, as you can see on the right-hand top corner of the slide. So here our goal is in the coming years to actually, by using artificial intelligence and all kinds of electronic means, to reduce the number of stops, and as an ultimate goal, that goods can move across the border without being stopped for all kinds of administrative tasks, but at the same time, the level of control will be kept. So here, in the current situation, we have already a move from paper-based customs procedures to electronic customs procedures. As you may know, the actual import procedures are nearly 100% already in all countries electronic, but the movement of goods, especially if it crosses several countries, is largely still paper-based. So I give you a number of examples how we can move forward in the, I would say, the current situation. The first one is the A-tier. So the TIR carnet now exists. It's a booklet based on paper, and the information inscribed on the forms in this booklet are now replaced by electronic messages, and therefore we call it the electronic TIR, or A-tier in short. So with this, and it's based on an international convention with nearly 60 countries having membership, and you can transport goods, I would say, from London to China, so across Europe and Asia, overland by road, by using the TIR carnet. And for the moment, pilot projects are ongoing to have an electronic version of that, operating, sending and receiving messages between the different customs organizations. Another one is quite similar. It's the ATA carnet. It is dealing with temporary admission. So it is for example, for journalists who take a lot of cameras and sound equipment, orchestras who take music instruments and so on. So they can do their tours with a paper carnet for the moment, but also an electronic version has been created based on electronic messages and also based on international legislation. So for these two conventions, an additional protocol was created which kind of give the legal background or the legal basis for these movements to take place in an electronic environment. Then another one is the transport document. CMR is probably known to nearly all of you. And also there, for transport, there is now an electronic version being implemented, and several pilot projects already exist, and I will explain the link between the customs and the transport instruments in the future to you. We also have now for postal traffic, not only the current documents CN22 and 23, which are paper-based and accompany mainly packages, especially important for e-commerce. Also an electronic version has now been created and is being tested and implemented at the moment. So it's important to know at this stage, we're mainly going for customs transit from a paper-based environment to an electronic environment. So as I was explaining, the future is really in combining the electronic transport documents and the customs documents. The information in the forms of the messages is probably 3/4 the same, and there is additional specific information for transport or customs purposes. So you could easily kind of create a single set covering transport and customs needs. So this has been done on the paper-based form for rail transport. You have two conventions. The SIM and SMGS has to do with the normal track in Western Europe mainly, and then the wide track mainly in the former Soviet Union, so the Eurasian Economic Union. But there is a joint data set now for both, and they can be used, as I said, as well from Western Europe up to the Chinese border on this joint document from SIM and SMGS. So also here, now at the moment, efforts are being undertaken to transpose the single data set on the forms to an electronic format, so that in future, these forms, which are used for transport and customs, will not only be available on paper, but also electronic. Another evolution in the same sense is in the maritime environment and also in the air transport environment, where the manifests are gradually being moved from paper-based to electronic. Many countries already have an electronic manifest. The harmonization is still a matter, I would say, where further progress can be achieved. But we see now that more and more information on the customs status of goods is indicated on the manifest, and that helps the customs control. They know on which ship it has been loaded. They know where the ship is going, what is the status of the goods. So that is also being progressed and is kind of together. The customs and the transport needs are put on the same data set. Same for post. Post is now also using the CN22 and 23 for transport, for postal transport purposes and for customs purposes to make the declaration. For road, we still have, as I indicated, two sets of information, the CMR for transport, and then in Europe, the NCTS or the TIR or ATA in a wider context. And there could be a combination of the data set in the future. In European legislation, already this possibility is foreseen, but it has to be worked out how this would work in practice. Now, what would be the next step? It would be really to go away from having transport that kind of accompany, documents that accompany the transport or messages that accompany the transport to assure surveillance. But the future is into creating what we call a virtual customs corridor. And that, as on the picture, you can see where trucks are going. They are under surveillance by cameras, by RFID, and so on. So that is where we will be going to. In the first step, it is mainly used for transport and customs surveillance, either within airports or between seaports and airports, and also links with bonded warehouses and free zones. So it concerns goods which remain under customs control. And I can show you a little bit more on the technology concerning these virtual corridors. So the goods which are being moved use, first of all, RFID, so radio frequency identification, so that each of the trucks have small emitters, and on the road there are kind of antennas who receive the signals, and they can follow each time a step where, for example, a truck has progressed. We have automated number plate recognition, which kind of certifies the truck and also the trailer. We have GPS tracking, and we can also exchange information on the progress of the movement by using a blockchain, in which in this contract it's inscribed exactly the content of the transport under customs control. The information can be logged into the cloud, so later on you can do investigations to know exactly what has happened. And even in some cases, the information is logged on the actual company accountancy systems. So additional to that, often is used when you either enter or leave the port or the airport, that you have a controlled access or exit. And there mainly there are electronic badges which are used and which can be traced to the actual driver of this consignment. Then another aspect is, how do you ensure that what is in the trucks doesn't disappear on the road? For that, you can use electronic seals who also transmit the information, for example, on the opening of the doors, but it could also indicate accidents, for example, or if the temperature goes beyond a certain critical level. And also smart containers, which are a bit of an integration, I would say, of the electronics which are in the e-seals. They're built into the containers, but have the same function. Then the last point I would like to underline is that all of that goes together with increased electronic risk management. So most of the customs administrations now use a special risk analysis with the risk engine. They use also on the background artificial intelligence based on all kinds of information they have access to, the declarations if they still exist, but also the history of the companies or the drivers involved, and all kind of structured and unstructured info they can find on the internet or elsewhere, which should kind of support the status of the company and the persons involved. And then traditionally, of course, customs work with establishing risk profiles. Certain goods or certain origins are more risky than others. targeted controls and so on. So that is a whole combination, a whole range of measures which make it possible actually to do a control on movement of goods in a high-tech environment. Some of the examples, I will give you 2 or 3 examples. The first one is in the European Union, in Italy, and my colleagues will say more. So already now in the port of Ancona and the surroundings, this concept, which I have just explained, is already happening, and it's based, as I said, on number plate recognition, on passing certain gates and so on. As you can see on the left-hand side, when the transport moves on, it's based on control. So my colleagues will explain that in more detail. I would just here, with the next slide, like to explain that this is not a phenomenon for European countries alone. I'm a part of a team that implement what we call the e-port in Morocco. It's in the port of Casablanca, and you can see on the top right-hand side on the slide that the port of Casablanca is surrounded by the city itself, which has 5 or 6 million inhabitants. So a kind of a better structure and organization of the transport is necessary to diminish pollution, useless movements of trucks and so on. So there also the access and is controlled at the arrival and departure. Also, the trucks have to move in a certain sense and cannot go back. They follow a certain agreed route. And the plan is that we install now all of these readers, and we know exactly what has happened there, and the whole functioning of the port becomes much more functional. Things go quicker, trucks don't have to stop so much, pollution will go down. That's the idea. A second foreign example is the use of these bonded corridors in the United Arab Emirates and also in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. There it's mainly to ensure the transport between the seaports and the airport, or between the ports and free zones and bonded warehouses, where then the goods are later on going for distribution to the actual consumer. So that is happening. An additional feature which is being tried out now is to extend it from local transport also to transport between UAE and Saudi Arabia, so that this corridor would then have a few hundreds of kilometers, because now, as you can see on the left hand bottom picture, at the border there are still long waiting queues and things are very difficult. So this will be combined, as we said, with fewer controls based on artificial intelligence and risk management for the crossing the actual border. Now, last slide on this subject. So the goal of this whole evolution of customs corridors is, in fact, to have all of the information available in a digital way, and you could then go even beyond the actual transport and transit of non-customs cleared goods, but with the information, actually also the customs clearance for import, so for consumption, can be done. And also additionally, it can be applied for e-commerce, because in e-commerce we have millions of consignments, and therefore all of them, they need to be customs cleared. So with electronic information, most of the customs clearance can be fully automated, and also the number of controls can go down, so that the customs can keep the staff levels necessary for really the suspect consignments. Where we need to make a little bit more progress is to fine-tune the automatic classification of the goods, because, as you know, where it's classified and the tariff defines the rate you have to pay. So that is now still largely done manual, but we need to make progress on an artificial intelligence tool to classify the goods. Same for the valuation of the goods, because the value determines the price of duties you have to pay. So these are two domains where we still need to make progress. But for the rest, this kind of corridor is building and would be in its final form kind of end to end. Then we come to the second last slide. I promised you to say a little bit more of what is happening in the customs environment in Europe. So at the end of last month, the European authorities presented the EU Customs Action Plan, and it's an ambition action plan for activities in the coming 5 years. And there it has 17 different actions which you can put into 4 categories. The first one is further make progress on risk management. As I said, to have better risk management, so fewer controls and better results. That's in short the goal. Managing e-commerce, as you all know, e-commerce is booming and we need to automate it further. Third is promotion of compliance. So we want to have traders who know better the law, who apply better the law, and we have fewer problems and therefore fewer inspections and administrative files. And the fourth category is the customs authorities acting as one. As you know, the customs union in the EU is composed of 27 administrations, and the goal, of course, is that you have the same quality of service everywhere. So that is the goal of the 17 actions. So we will use for that, of course, more data. We want to harmonize the data, ensure the quality of the data, and improve the analysis of the data. That's very important, of course. Also, then as a next point, payment must be automatic and electronic. We will also work on the single window. I will tell you more about that in the last slide. And then also in the plan, it's foreseen that customs will have more and better equipment, which will make the actual inspections less intrusive, so less damage to the packaging, less damage to the goods. So that's also for trade quite an important improvement. And then, of course, international cooperation will also progress, especially an agreement between the EU and China, as there is a huge commercial ties between those countries. So also there, with agreements, we can standardize and harmonize further the commercial flows between the EU and China. Then last slide is on the single window environment for customs, which is under construction at the moment. So the goal is beyond customs also to do in one place all of the other formalities you have to do. Think about plant health obligations, animal health obligations, product quality, and so on. There are specific regulations for that. So that will be integrated. You can do everything in one place. Also, the authorities will have collaborative processing, which means that everyone does its work and you get response when everyone has done its work, and you don't have to treat with maybe 5 different administrations. You can do everything in one go. Also, the legislation to cross the border will be better integrated so that there are fewer problems for the trading community. And also, of course, the goal is to have not a 5 times a risk assessment, but to have one quality risk assessment and do it only once. And then if an inspection is needed, that those who are concerned can be, of course, present at the inspection. Then the last thing is that all of that it will be the subject of a legal proposal, which will probably come within the next year, so that a sufficient legal basis is available for the single window in the customs environment and can go hand in hand with the actual creation of the single window itself. So that was it from my side. A lot of information. I hope you could follow it, and I also remain available for answering questions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Frank. It was a clear frame and in order to understand how things are going worldwide in terms of customs evolution and digitalization. And there might be a lot of questions. Okay, but let's see if at the end, because I have also some questions probably for you. Okay, now we will go into the subject, moving from the overall frame of digitalization and customs towards the Smart Sea project. And for this, I leave the floor to Guido Vettorel, that is going to tell you a little bit more now about Smart Sea and the project itself. That's one of the main reasons why we are here today. Guido, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon to everybody, and thank you, Alexio, and thanks also to the previous speakers because they helped me a lot to start with the contents of my presentation and of the project. So let me start just briefly introducing what is the Smart Sea project. The Smart Sea is the attempt by a port authority to make a virtual enlargement of port areas. So this is the need where we started to define our project and to find the solution. It's a solution that Central Adriatic Port Authority could not find by itself, but it's a story of cooperation, especially with the Italian Customs Agency, and this was a strong support, a strong background also in the technical aspects, and I was glad to see a lot of the contents of the slides presented by Frank, because I saw that many of his topics really in Italy with the dialogue with the customs are reality. So a brief presentation about us. Central Adriatic Ports Authority was established in 2017. We are now managing 6 ports along the Central Adriatic coast, and including the international port of Ancona and the freight port of Ortona. These are the 2 main ports. We handle in the 6 ports almost 12 million tons of cargo per year, before COVID, of course. And we have an important ferry traffic of 1.2 million passengers. We are established along the coastline of 2 regions, 3 main cities, 2 interregional customs directions, so the importance to have a dialogue with the central level of the customs agency along 215 kilometers of coastline. Going to the port of Ancona. Ancona is named the gateway to the east because of the port and its tradition in linking the eastern Adriatic and eastern Mediterranean coast. We are a port, core port on the ScanMed corridor, and Ancona, we made an analysis recently. It's a bridgehead of several routes. We found more than 85 different routes connecting NUTS1 region. So we nearly serve almost all the regions of the EU, with the Balkan countries, Southeastern Mediterranean, and the Black Sea area. How do we serve this trade connection? Mainly through ferries. We have 3 relevant motorways of the sea to Croatia, in particular the port of Split. Fast-growing motorways of the sea between Ancona and Durrës. The traffic to Albania in 5 years speeded up 185% in a relatively small time. And then we have the most of the traffic along the Ancona-Goumenica-Patras, so the link with the Greek ports on the western coast of Greece, serving not only the trade relation between Greece and Central and Western Europe, but the whole Eastern Med and Black Sea area. Especially, we have a strong trade relation with Turkey and the eastern coast of the Black Sea, passing to Ancona and having final destination, as you can see in this image, spread around in Europe. An international port serving EU, but inside a town. You can see it very well from this picture, the difference between the kind of trade routes we serve and the infrastructure we manage. So traditionally, passenger and freight of ferries are served in the historical port of Ancona, very close to the town center. This involves the lack of areas behind the quays. In the specific case, the lack of parking space for customs formalities, for instance, before export or after the disembarking for the import process. So this brought to, in the time, especially with the growing of the ferry traffic, to an inefficient port organization. To give you a practical example, I rounded here in green this pier that was where we usually parked the trucks that should implement customs formality before leaving Ancona or after their arrival in the town. So it meant disembarking, going back to this pier, and then crossing again all the port area to go towards the highway. And with the numbers that I mentioned before, concerning, for instance, the traffic with Albania, this became more and more a problem in terms of congestion, in terms of inefficiency, also for truck drivers. So the quality of service the port and its operators were able to deliver to the final customer. To find an alternative to this solution, we found only one way. That was we have to go out of the port areas, meaning going out also from the customs area. So how to do it? And this we were helped a lot by the new customs code. So we could implement an innovative actions together with the Italian Customs Agency, bypassing the problem with the port infrastructure and finding an alternative solution outside the port area. The challenge was how to link the new port area for customs formality with the keys for ferries. So this is a general overview again of the port. You can see here on the right side the ferry terminals, and then with the different areas, because being in this part of Europe, I would say, give to the port the opportunity and the challenge to manage all the kind of traffic I mentioned to you. We have ferry lines with fully EU and EU market and Schengen area, so the Ancona Igoumenitsa Patras, the link between Ancona and Greece. We have another area, another link inside the EU, but with the extra Schengen country, as is the case for Croatia, and we have the line with Albania, so completely third country. But also on the EU lines, the Schengen line as Greece, especially after the crisis of the beginning of this decade, we noticed a rising number of cargo coming from a third country that choose Ancona to implement customs formality. So the request for customs services in the years has become more and more important. We needed to find a solution. So we collected this area that you see in white on the red with the customs gate, with we call it a virtual tunnel to make a difference with the customs corridor that are a different process in Italy. So we call it a virtual tunnel to link it with Scalo Marotti, that is the new area for customs controls outside the port. This has increased the efficiency because it's very close to the ticket office for ferries, the parking area for trucks. So we by moving also the customs control in the area of Scalo Marotti, we can more concentrate all the services for our customers, so for truck drivers, freight forwarders, and for the control authorities. And we made several tests in cooperation with the Italian Customs Agency and the Customs Police, the Guardia di Finanza. And through this institutional cooperation, we established since 2018 these new procedures. Currently, the procedures is made with human control along this virtual this tunnel, this link on a local road. But this, of course, could be just a temporary solution. So we started back 2 years ago to analyze how could we solve this problem of controls. We went through the different technologies, the different opportunities, and many of them were mentioned in the presentation by Frank. And finally, we set out the TINS, Transfer in Security. This is the acronym, global project. And we defined the new procedure to move control and to manage control outside the port area. The main challenge we saw it was basically the issue how to control trucks and vehicles where we cannot put some unit, something on board, even not RFID, because to do so we should have done it when the vehicles were disembarked for the import process or before leaving for the export process. So one of the main constraints in our test was we should find a solution without the cooperation, the active cooperation of the vehicles. So to do so, the only solution to identify the vehicles was, of course, the plate recognition. But the data concerning the plate for vehicles, so they gave us the information about the transport unit, but not about the cargo. So the challenge was how to put together the transport and the customs data and ensure a constant control along between the customs area and the embarking gates. We choose the artificial intelligence system. We made it a national tender to find the possible technological solution, and it came out that we had only one product available, already mature, to implement this kind of controls. There was the system named Atreyu from Hyperion, that could ensure the track and trace of all the vehicles. And this was, of course, for the control of the vehicles. But then we are now working on a second step, that is the interoperability. And this is another important challenge that was put into attention by the previous speakers, between different softwares, different systems. And again, the support of the Italian Customs Agency, it was something strategic, very, very important to us, because we already found the standards. So that was very important to have a already defined standard that could help to develop the systems accordingly. And I'm happy to announce here that last week, after 1 month of testing, the technicians of the Port Authority, Hyperion, and Italian Customs Agency come out for the first time with a full dialogue between the two systems. So it was shown that interoperability is possible by respecting also all the security standard set by the Italian Customs Agency. So more into detail how it works, this artificial intelligence system. I told you the first thing was to able to substitute human control. So the added value is the system is the use of normal IP cameras and plate recognition systems to collect the data and link the plate to the vehicle and the capacity to follow the vehicle along the path. Not only to follow the vehicle, the capacity to, so the tracing and monitoring the proper path, but also the capacity to control all the eventual non-conformities in the behavior of the truck. So in case of the truck is stopped without reason, people coming close to the truck, the driver going out from the vehicles. So the system is able to recognize all the unconformities and to give an immediate warning to the Guardia di Finanza, so the customs police and the Italian Customs Agency, without, I repeat, any active cooperation by the vehicle. And this is the important added value, because as I mentioned to you, we have vehicles and people coming from an indefinite number of countries, so with different alphabets, languages, and attitudes. So that's why such an artificial intelligence system is essential for the success of this global project, this TEAMS project. After we tested, and we are already into the process with a very good result, we made 1 year of continuous testing along the gates, along the path. We are now in the phase of giving added value to the control. So we showed that the system is able to generate warnings to see if vehicles are not authorized to enter in some area, or they're missing some crossings. Now we are in the challenge with interoperability to provide the Italian Customs Agency with the information joined about the vehicles and about the freight and its customs status. And this is the second innovation of the process. For the first time, the two institutions, the Port Authority and the Customs Agency, cooperate to share the information and have them together. And this will help to avoid the problem that was mentioned before, to join this kind of data. This is just an overview about how the system works and the different controls and warning that I already explained to you. And let me close with the advantages and the innovation that we found up to now. For sure, we had a strong efficiency in port operation, because we have a concentration of the traffic and of the controls, a further digitalization of procedures, and this has a good impact on time saving, organization, and of course control. We had the moving away of the trucks from the historical port to the Scalo Marotti customs parking meant a reduction of trucks, heavy vehicles along the port traffic in terms of 60,000 kilometers per year. That means 1.5 the width of the Earth. So just to give an order of importance of the results achieved also in terms of environment. And finally, an international recognition that was for us, we see in this way the awarding of the Smart Sea project, that is the specific action connected to innovation of the TEAMS global project that was awarded 2 years ago with a co-funding of 50% in the cost for innovation. So we're very proud of having also the EU supporting this process, and we are very trustful that we'll be able, together with the customs agency and the other institution, to bring a step forward in the efficiency of customs and port operations. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Guido. It was the right approach in showing the project. I think the one thing that is, at least from my side, to be highlighted is in the benefits you mentioned at the end is the environmental ones. And this is quite important because, of course, digitalization of these kind of things is almost related to more effective operations, in ports, in logistics, and so on. But in some cases, like this one, it has also a very consistent impact, positive impact on environment and reduction of pollution. So, and that is totally in line with the, ongoing policy at European level that sees very strongly together the Green Deal, the sustainability with the overall digitalization of the transport of the industry in Europe, and the public administration in Europe. So thanks for that. We move now to the Italian Customs Agency, Danilo Bottone, that is going to present the point of view of the Italian Customs for related to Smart Sea, but also in relation to the other digitalization initiatives of the Italian Customs that are quite much advanced in this respect. So Danilo, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. I don't see my presentation on screen.
We see it, but it's like the speaker. We also see the speaker's notes. It's the mode in which you are visualizing the presentation. Okay. Because we see it. We see your screen actually. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Did you see?
Okay, Guido, please. Yes, did we see? Yes, yes. Now it's perfect. Thank you, Guido. Okay. Thank you, Danilo.
You're welcome. So, hello everyone. I'm Danilo Bottone, Head of Organization, Research and Digital Transition Office of Italian Customs Agency. I'm in charge since July, so in these almost 4 months, I immediately got to the heart of the project that the agency is following, both in the organization sector, which I was already following, and also in the sector of digitalization of customs procedures in port. So we today see an overview on these projects. Okay, so we see a quick overview of these projects, focusing on one under development in the port of Ancona. The Italian Customs Agency promotes innovation and economic growth in custom fields, also through implementation of the European and Italian digital agenda. So we move in the framework that we have seen in this morning. The digital transformation path started by IDM is focused on improvement of competitiveness of national port and logistics system. The main goals of the path are simplify the import-export cycle, digitalize the control phase, and so automate as much as possible all the process, reduce the administrative cost for operators, so the operators can also have economic benefits from this digitalization, improve also the data quality and the reliability of the documents in electronic forms, and reduce, last but not least, reduce the environmental impact of the transport of goods. These objectives are aimed by IDM with a lot of projects. 3 of these are Smart Terminal, iRail, and port tracking. Today we see port tracking, that is the implementation of Smart Sea that we have seen before. But just a few words on Smart Terminal and iRail. Smart Terminals allows optimizing the complex Italian logistic chain through various tools, such as the yearly presentation of the manifest for incoming goods. And iRail is an opportunity for innovation and digitalization of railways, logistic, and customs process in an integrated vision that is consistent with the European guidelines. So we can develop in an efficient way the transport all over the logistic chain. However, as we focus on port tracking. Okay, port tracking project is focused on digitalizing the customs procedure for embarkation and disembarkation. So from the project consent also the payment of taxes in integrated way, and interconnect many of the authorities on that operate on a port. According to the principle one shipment, one control, the project realizes integration between customs and maritime services and allow reductions of obligations for road transport. The main benefits that projects can do so. There are ports gate automation with electronic tracking of containers, goods, and vehicles. Digitalization of all obligation with real-time monitoring, and so we can we no requires to stop the vehicles unless we really need it. So the traffic on the port is reduced. We have a reduce of pollution because we have less traffic on the port. The project involves all the main actors, as we see, who manage the procedure in ports, and we can see in this schema how they interoperate. The interoperability feature is the key of this project, because it's the way in which all authorities interconnect their system in an end-to-end process. We use in this project a lot of advanced technologies such as AI, machine learning, blockchain, and some of the services realized in this project have also been cited by Agency for Digital Italy as a benchmark, such as web services without domain gateway. In the 4.0 industry and logistic scenario needs a big investments in digital innovation, and the agency has a key role in this innovation and can strengthen Italy's role in the entire logistic chain. We have to develop a network of productive companies and attract new economic operators that operate in the Mediterranean area. But we don't forget to fight against customs fraud, that through digitalization of customs procedure and electronic tracking of goods can help this project. We can answer the needs of speed in movement of goods, but we don't forget safe and security of borders. Thank you for listening, and it was a very pleasure being here today.
you very much, Danilo, for this overview of the different initiatives of the Italian customs that are really many, and not only the one related to the Smart Sea project, but also to other projects, and in which I see that one of the key points is, the two key points, of course, is using technologies, new technologies, and friendly technologies, but also the key point is the interoperability, full digital interoperability, let me say, between the number of actors, public and private actors that are, engaged in these complex operations. So thanks for that. Last but not least, we move to a bit technological vision, the enabling technology discussion about artificial intelligence and possible scenarios in transport and logistics. So I leave the floor to Andrea Lagomarsini, that's CTO in Hyperion, that is going to give his speech before a bit of discussion at the end. The floor is yours, Andrea.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks for just a moment. Okay. Nice to meet you, and thanks for the possibility that I have today to explain how we use technology and in particular artificial intelligence to resolve a lot of the problems that my colleagues introduced in this meeting. Okay, I'm Andrea Lagomarsini. I'm the CTO, sorry, of Hyperion Software. I'm also one of the founder of the company, also the inventor of a 3U, that is the platform that we want to introduce to you, that is selected from the Port Authority of Ancona to implement the virtual tunnel between the port and the custom park and the agency. Our mission, some words about us. Our mission is to create a new innovation platform based on human independent and software that is able to use the artificial intelligence to simulate the human presence, the control of the human presence without a real human presence. So the software is independent, is based on a new patent approach that is based on the geospatial and 3D virtual reality reconstruction of the space. We use the 3D reconstruction of the space because we need the 3D dimension to understand what's happened on an object moving. So also the artificial intelligence, the deep learning, and lots of different technologies use the 3D motion and the 3D space to understand better the volume of the object, the behavior of the object during the time. So this is the new impact that we put in the software and the new vision that has inside of our patent. The software is named 3U, is Advanced Autonomous Artificial Intelligence Unit, because it's acted as a unit, but is able to integrate and interoperate with any technology you just have installed in your facility. And this is one of the important meaning that we have. So we just integrate a lot of different technology, for example, starting from cameras, but also automation, sensors, RFID, Bluetooth trilateration, Wi-Fi trilateration, and so on. So we involve any kind of information that you are able to grab from the reality inside of virtual model, a 3D virtual model that is very closer to the reality in terms of dimension, position of the object, and so on, buildings, and so on. So when we track the information inside, grabbing, for example, from a camera or a sensor, we are able to understand in real time where the object is and which kind of object is. Also, merging together a lot of different information that are arriving from any different, for example, cameras or sensor in a sort of multi-scopy and correlation of information in real time. To do that, because we have a lot of information in real time in the same time, we need the artificial intelligence to create a filter, because a lot of the information is not able to merge or calculate it from a simple software or normal software. So the system is able to acquire and analyze in real time a lot of the information, and we help the analysis using the 3D model. So for us, the 3D model is not just a cosmetic gist, but is the way in which we use the analytics and also the math to analyze metrics and so on, to recreate in a virtual space what's happened in reality. And the main concept that we use to do that is the artificial intelligence in many different layers and in many different technologies. For example, we use neural networks, rule engines, deep learning, for example, to understand the movement of the object during the time, or for example, to acquire the movement of the sun and the shading to reduce the noise inside of the virtual space, or and we use the 3D, as I just said, we use the 3D virtual reality as a model to reduce the noise, and also to reduce the problem of understanding of the object moving. So, for example, I want to make you focus on the plate recognition, for example. In a gate, we use a lot of different cameras to grab the object from many parts, and this is to remove the closure. For example, we grab the track that is moving in the gate, inside of the gate, and we collect information when he's approaching or in the between, and also when he's exiting from the gate. All this information is grabbed together using, for example, a graph, a 3D graph, and that we use the artificial intelligence to collect together the information. It's the same thing that the human do when we saw something. So if I see an object with the eyes, I have two eyes working together to create a 3D scoping. In this case, we use the multiscopy to reduce the error reading and to have a data that is strong. So the main feature are we use the software to control wide areas, for example, and this wide area is analyzed with just one single screen, because if you have a huge portion of space like the port of Ancona, using just one 3D object world inside one monitor is very simple to understand from a human point of view when object is moving and when you have an alarm, for example. So the virtual geofencing is another important thing, that a feature that we have and we are able to give to our customer, that is the creation of virtual space in the 3D virtual reality, in which you can attach any kind of rules that you want. And also in terms of virtuality, you can create in the same time, in the same place, a lot of different rules that are act together with a rule engine, an AI rule engine that is able to react without a human presence. All the information are tracked. So grabbed as music, for example, as sounds, as grabbed from reality and stored in a DB. That is an inferential DB in which we can use the information, for example, in training, deep learning training, to understanding, and also to collect together the information of different technologies. Okay, the technology provided could be infinite also in the future, so we can use many kind of different technology, because we are focused just on the information produced and not in the hardware that produce the information. One of the most important fact in this world is the interoperability and the ability to integrate different technology, because we can act as a presenter, a graphic user interface, but we are able also to collect information in the background and send information to other systems like a human. So a human working on paper and transform the information in a process. This software, our software, is able to do that without any human presence. So you can transform the information and collect the information to, for example, create an alarm, or in this case, provide information in real time to the customer agency that is able to have the track, the driver, the number of expedition, and also maybe the plate of the truck is moving. The last but not the least is the automation and the execution of the rules. That is very important for us, that you can use our system to do a lot of different things. For example, for prevention, so for anti-terrorism applications, for wildland security, for logistics, and lots of different things that I want to explain a little more after. The benefits, based on artificial intelligence, you can remove, of course, the cost and also the failover of the operators, and also the human factor that is important in terms of, for example, firefighting or a reduction of the queues in the gate, or, for example, for security. Okay. Another important thing is that the software is a cloud-based, so it's an enterprise platform developed for scalability. So you can store the software in a hardware, in a machine in the field, but you can use also, as in Ancona port, inside of cloud that could be modified during the time using the hardware that you need for the action that you want to focus on. Or for example, you can add cameras in a place that you don't have control in the future, and the software doesn't need to anything, just have received the information. And also, for example, aid and hardware if you want. This particular behavior and this particular functionality of the software could be reduce the cost for development and also for the scale of the application. So the field applications are many. We have installed the software, for example, in critical infrastructure like airport, or for industrial application, maybe control a farm, maybe control a farm in terms of production, but also in logistics, the trucks entering exit from a farm or a factory and so on. But we use the software also to control the civil application, like a domotic one for Vilar, or for a place in which you need an accurate anti-intrusion and security system. Of course, last is the military application that is very interesting on this kind of analysis, because the human factor is reduced to zero, and you can have a solution that is able to do a lot of things like human, but without any error. I want to, for the last part of my presentation, present to you some cases in which we use the software. For example, for anti-intrusion or anti-climbing, you can analyze the tracking of and the behavioral analysis, for example, for loitering, for anti-terrorism, tracking face, and so on. We can monitor for and make a recognition for object lost or removed object in the space. For example, I think on the airports for anti-terrorism, but we also track vehicle and people in any condition, in inside, in outside, without any problem, because we use the technology that is able in the place, because we understand anything about, we know anything about the place using the 3D model to understand if we have to use one algorithm or another one in terms of the moment of the day, in timing, also in the place, for physical place. And also the access management is one of the important feature of our system, is to collect together information from, and we can control automation, gates, and so on, and so on. We use also the software for prevention. We are working on a software to control tunnel for firefighting, but also for accident prevention. In terms of technology growth, we are able to have information from lots of different cameras with a lot of pixels in real time, to understand also if someone is for example, working in a garden with a gun in the hand, or in the future, or with other things that could be problematic in terms of control. In terms of firefighting, we created another patent to avoid a lot of different problems during the accident analysis, but also in the reaction, for the first moment reaction in the accident of firefighting, because we are able to use fluidodynamics, for example, using the information from weather stations, a sensor in the field, to understand how the fire is moving in the future, and creating real time with the artificial intelligence model could be very interesting to send, for example, the drone or an extinguisher robot to make the first stage of the intervention. And we are working on it. But as a last part, I want to focus in for the port feature that are very important, and we just create a module that is able to do to improve efficiency in the port operation in terms of reduction of bottlenecks. For example, I'm thinking of in the gate when the tourists approaching with the car, so we are able to understand the number of cars in the tunnel, and we are able also to reduce the number of cars, for example, for CO2 reduction and so on. We can prevent the congestion, but and so we are so focused on the green policies because it's very important to reduce also in a city like Ancona, in which the port is totally merged with the city. Another side effect that we created tons of billions of information in each day, so we are able to share this information, for example, for movement of people, object, and so on, and we are able to share this information to multidisciplinary agents, and also to use the information to react, for example, for policy and so on. So just using simple technology that is just installed in the port, we can make a concrete reduction of the problems that we have. At the last part, for port areas, we can do a lot of different things in real time with the same system in the same time. So, for example, making a summarize with the anti-intrusion control and perimeter control, for example, in the custom area where we have the custom objects stored, car, trails, and so on. We can reduce the fire risk as a supervision. We can make a control for authorization, for example, making the recognition, the control of the object, but also we collect together information from custom agency and also the tracking of the object. We have, of course, a normal verification of the behavior, all the movement of the object, because we are able in the 3D world to create a correlation between objects. It's quite simple to understand if a truck is stopped in a not allowed place and someone is walking around, okay, in the road and also on the park. So we create a real-time control with artificial intelligence to correlate any kind of information from now, but also in the future is very important. The last thing is the traffic control that is very important. In the next future, we could be able to also to merge together the face tracking and the analysis with the possibility of making matching for the database and the no problem and no risk on people and so on. So making a summarize, we have in front of a unique characteristic of adaptability and flexibility, and we are able to use that 3U in many sectors, for many different applications, for example, for smart building and infrastructure, in the asset management and facility management, also with the using of IoT and connectivity. But all this information all this ability are possible with the use of artificial intelligence and ML. So I finished my little brief. If you have question, I'm here.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We are at the end. We are a bit late, so I think we have some questions from the audience. So I would just raise a couple of them because we are a bit late. So I think one is mainly for Astrid, and the second one is for Guido. So I think we have time for a couple. So the very short answer. First of all, Astrid, this is the first for you. Is the initiative of the Digital Transport Logistics Forum, of course, is bringing attention and is trying to deliver somehow an harmonization in terms of data model and stuff like that. But how this the question is how this initiative is taken into account, if and how is taken into account the several initiatives that are running at, let me say, more private-based led, that are anyhow influencing the standardization or harmonization of data and messages. Because as we all know, I mean, if the private sector is strong, it can deliver a very strong standard that could become standard de facto. Okay, more than so. How the Digital Transport Logistics Forum is taking care about that? Very short reply, and please ask it.
Okay, thank you, Alexio. Yeah, thank you for the question. As I said earlier in my presentation, the intention is not to reinvent the wheel. So we take as much care or take as much as we can into account the existing initiatives. Maybe I should have said also in the very beginning that one of the reasons to actually implement or to create the DTLF was to deliver a platform for coordination and integration and cooperation, taking into account that for many years, for example, we have invested into in the context of the EU research framework programs and many projects, seeing also that not always projects also with a lot of industries, private businesses involved, seeing after the finalization of the projects that not always everything was taken up to the maximum. And so in order to avoid starting all over again was actually the reason to also start the DTLF. As I said, we take into account as much as possible what we know of. And of course, we have a broad range of industries also represented in the DTLF. So I think we have a rather good knowledge and coverage. But if the person who has asked that question has anything specific in mind, we are of course also open to look into that. So again, this is not to reinvent, to complicate, or to replace existing solutions. It's really also acknowledging that investments have been made also by private industries and businesses. But it's basically to create a platform to bring together what is there and to put it a step further and to bring it to larger implementation and harmonization in a nutshell. But I'm happy to exchange bilaterally further if need is.
Thanks, quite much clear, and I may even add that the experts, many of the experts of the DTLF, they are coming from the private sector, so they are fully aware of what's going on, so they can really combine the two, let's say, aims all together. So thanks a lot, Astrid. Last question is for Guido. Okay, after this, let's say, first project about the virtual tunnel and the connection in the port and the customs clearance area, which are in the port of Ancona the next steps in terms of implementing future applications in concerning digitalization specifically?
Well, thank you, Alexio. We have, let's say, a roadmap recently defined with the Italian Customs Agency. Last week, we signed in Bologna an agreement, a formal agreement under the coordination of the Ministry of Infrastructures and of Arsoporti, the National Ports Association. And basically, we will extend in the next years the innovation and all the procedures that we tested here in Ancona, also in the other ports of the Central Adriatics, so the 6 ports that we manage, with a priority for the port of Ortona. The second important step is related to Ancona, and we are starting now with the definition of the first study, and it's the extension of the application of port tracking also to the container traffic in the port of Ancona. So we will have a smart sea project, let's say, also for container traffic to improve also this sector.
Thanks a lot. So thanks to the speakers, to the participants, and to the Connecting EU team. We are at the end of the first event. I think it was great. It was really knowledgeable in a way. So I learned a lot from this, and so I think this was the main aim of the event. So thanks again. Stay tuned. Stay connected. We have a second one later this afternoon, changing totally the topic. We are going to talk about hydrogen, the use of hydrogen in maritime transport. But of course, this is a very trendy and interesting topic too. So thanks a lot, and see you soon. Bye bye and good afternoon.